All right, everybody, we are going to walk through the answers to your study guides. Okay, one problem at a time. This is study guide number 1 for chapters 1 through 3, and we're going to work through problems 1 through 12 because I'm hoping that you will be able to work through those in a single testing period. All right, so let's begin with problem number 1. This is an order of operations problem. You want to do whatever is in your parentheses first. So I'm going to simplify this to become 5 plus 4 times negative 3 plus 7 is 4. Okay, positive 7 minus 3 gives me a positive 4. Multiply the 4 by this 4 to get rid of those parentheses, and I end up with 5 plus 16, which equals 21. That's the answer. All right, number 2 is negative 4 ninths plus 5 halves. In order to add fractions, they have to have the same denominator. So convert these to the least common multiple of each of these factors here in the denominator. So in this case, the least common multiple is 18. I multiplied 9 by 2 to get 18, so I need to multiply the numerator by 2. This becomes negative 6. I multiplied this denominator by 9 to get 18, and so I'm going to multiply the numerator by 9 to get 45. When I combine, again, when I'm adding, okay, when I'm combining fractions, denominator stays the same. I've got negative 6 eighteenths and a positive 45 eighteenths. When I combine those all together, I get 37 eighteenths total. Okay, 45 positive minus 6 of them gives me 37 total. Okay, number 3, we are dividing fractions. 1/4 divided by 9/16. When we are multiplying or dividing fractions, we multiply straight across the numerators, multiply straight across the denominators, but since there's a division symbol right here, when I divide fractions, I multiply the first fraction by the reciprocal of the second. All right, so I keep the first fraction, I change the operation, and I flip the second fraction. Keep, change, flip. Here I can do some cross-canceling. 4 goes into itself once, it goes into 16 4 times. Nothing I can do here. I end up with 1 times 4 is 4. 1 times 9 is 9. So I get 4 ninths. All right, next. Problem number 4. Negative 3 squared minus 5 times the absolute value of 4 plus 2 times negative 3 in parentheses squared, close the absolute value sign. All right, now I'm going to start with what's inside. Another order of operations problem. Start with what is inside your grouping symbols. Inside your grouping symbols, you have a negative 3 in parentheses squared. What that means is negative 3 times negative 3. So that's going to be a positive number here. All right, guys. So I'm going to rewrite this as 4 plus 2 times negative 3 times negative 3 is 9. Leave everything else as it is. All right, and we're just going to keep simplifying. I've still got to deal with these grouping symbols, so I'm going to rewrite this again. Negative 3 squared minus 5 times the absolute value of 4 plus 18. Negative 3 squared minus 5 times the absolute value of 22, which is a positive 22. The absolute value of a positive 22 is 22. So I have negative 3 squared times negative 5 times positive 22, right? All right. So negative 5 times, I'm doing this on my calculator right here, is negative 110. This becomes negative 110. This one is the one you need to pay attention to. Because the negative is outside, okay, of this, what you're basically seeing is this. You could almost envision parentheses with the 3 inside. So this ends up becoming 3 times 3, and it's the negative of that, which is negative 9. Because because the negative is outside of the number and not inside of parentheses, you're not multiplying negative 3 times negative 3. You're taking the negative of 3 squared, which is negative 9. When I combine negative 9 minus 110, I get negative 119. That's important for you to know for your final. Okay, number 5. I'm doing this outside, so I have papers blowing all over the place. Okay, last one on this front page. Negative 4 times x plus 3 plus 5 times x minus 7. You're going to use a distributive property of multiplication, and you're going to distribute this term, okay, to each term inside the parentheses in order to get rid of the parentheses. Here we go. Negative 4 times x is negative 4x. Negative 4 times 3 is negative 12. You're distributing now a positive 5. So positive 5 times x is plus 5x. Positive 5 times negative 7 is negative 35. I'm going to combine my like terms. Like terms are the same variable raised to the same power. So these are both x raised to the first power, so I can combine them. I've got a positive 5x minus 4x, so altogether that's 1 remaining x. And then I've got negative 12 minus 35 when I combine, okay, negative 35, and I subtract 12 more, I get a negative 47. So that's your answer, x minus 47. Okay, we're about halfway, just about halfway done with these for our first 12 problems of your study guide. Let me turn the page. All right. Problem number 6. There we go. Solve each equation. What that means is that you are trying to find the value of x. So you have 3x minus 10 equals 14. Okay, 3x minus 10 equals 14. I need to get x by itself. First thing first, I'm going to move the 10 away from my x term because I'm trying to isolate the x term. I do whatever the opposite is of the operation that's there. So because this is minus 10, I add 10 to each side. That gets rid of it on this side, and I end up with 3x equals 24, because that's what happens when I combine 14 and 10. Now, x is multiplied by 3, so I'm going to divide it by 3. In order to solve for x alone, 24 divided by 3 is 8. Okay, x equals 8. Number 7, 6.8x plus 4.7 equals negative 8.22. This is the same process. You're just dealing with decimals. So I'm trying to get x by itself. First thing I want to do is move any terms that are not x terms away from the x. This is a positive 4.7, okay, plus 4.7, the opposite of that. To move it, I'm going to subtract the 4.7, but I need to subtract it from both sides, okay, in order to move it from this side to this side. This is a little bit tricky because gosh, just use your calculator, right? Negative 8.22 minus 4.7 is negative 12.92. So you can do that on your calculator, and that's just fine. Understanding this, you've got your negative 8.22 units away from 0, right, guys? So if you're understanding this, let's say here's 0 and here's negative 8.22. If you want to subtract 4.7 more, it's going to send you farther into the negative zone, okay? So really, you could add these two numbers and make sure you keep their sign. That's the way we combine two integers with the same sign, is you combine their absolute values and you keep their sign. So that's how to understand why this is negative 12.92. Now, I've got 6.8 multiplied by x here, so I want to divide this whole thing by 6.8 in order to get x by itself. That makes this 1, so I've got 1x, that's my goal, right? And I'm going to take my negative 12.92, I'm doing this on my calculator, and I'm going to divide it by 6.8. You can do the long division if you want to, you don't have to. And I end up with x equals negative 1.9. In fact, if you do the long division on your test and don't use your calculator, you might run out of time. So start with your calculator for a problem like this. Okay, show me you know the process. Let your calculator do the work that you don't have to do in order to show me what it is that you can do in terms of getting this variable by itself. That's the whole point. For number 8, it's the same type of process here of isolating a variable. Okay, so for number 8, I've got 2p minus 3 over 6 equals 3p plus 3 over 4. Okay, I don't want to deal with these fractions. I'm trying to solve for p, so I'm going to use the butterfly method here. That's what you guys have called it, right? Which makes sense because it looks like a butterfly. And I'm going to cross multiply. I'm going to multiply across this equal sign so that I end up with 4 times 2p minus 3 equals 6 times 3p plus 3. You see your problem like this on your final, approach it like this, okay? This is going to be your easiest way to deal with this problem. Now, distribute to get rid of the parentheses, and then we can start moving terms. 4 times 2p is 8p minus 12. Okay, that's 4 times negative 3 is negative 12 equals 6 times 3p is 18p. 6 times 3 is a positive 18. Get the p's on one side and the whole numbers on the other, and then we'll solve for p. I'm going to subtract 8p from here and from here. I subtracted it here because it was positive. Okay, so to move it, I need to do the opposite. All right, and then I'm going to subtract the 18 from this side and move it over here. So I have the variables with variables, and whole numbers with whole numbers. Now again, I've got negative 12 and negative 18. Think about that for a second. If you've got a number line, you start at 0, you're 12 units to the left, and you want to go 18 more to the left. That's what this negative means. Okay, I'm going to get a bigger number. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to combine these two numbers. I'm going to combine their absolute values and keep the sign. Okay, so when I take negative 12 and I subtract 18, I get negative 30 because I'm going farther into the negative zone. Here, 18p minus 8p gives me 10 p's remaining. All right, p is multiplied by 10. So I'm going to divide it by 10, and I end up with negative 30 divided by 10 is negative 3 equals p, because 10 divided by 10 is 1. So I have solved for the variable. That's what they wanted me to do. Okay, number 9, I know we did this in class, but in case you want to see it again, let me show it to you. 2y minus 3x equals ay minus 2x. Now, the tricky thing about this problem is that the directions tell you to solve for y. You have a y on this side and a y on this side, right? But this y is multiplied by a different variable. So we're just going to start doing what we know how to do. Try to get y's on one side of the equal and everything else on the other side of the equal sign, okay? Okay, so I think what I will do is I'm going to subtract the ay from this side in order to move it over here. And I'm going to add the 3x here and add the 3x here. Now, when I subtract the ay from this side, it takes it away from this side, okay, and moves it over here so that I have 2y minus ay. I can't subtract a y from here because they're not like terms, so I have to put them next to each other like this. 2y minus ay. This 3x is eliminated. Okay, I moved this ay over here, and I've got negative 2x plus 3x just gives me x. All right. Now, from here, the way that I am visualizing this, if I want to get y by itself, I can see that this term has a y in it and this term has a y in it. So I'm going to factor the y out of this side and end up with this, okay? So if I pull that y out, I have y multiplied by 2 minus a equals x, okay? So I factored the y out. If I were to multiply that back in, I'd have 2y minus ay. So I factored that y out so that I could isolate it. Now, if I divide this whole thing by 2 minus a, this becomes 1, and I've got y by itself. This is the answer. Okay, so in this case, I'll just write it over here so you can see y equals x over 2 minus a. Okay, that's how we're going to get to our solution. 3 more problems on this part of Study Guide 1. Okay, we're going to go ahead and solve problem number 10, 11, and 12. Problem 10. 4 times m minus 6 minus m times 3 plus 4 equals 8m minus 2. On your final, I'm going to recommend that you do all of these problems on scratch paper so you have plenty of room, okay, to solve all of these problems. Now, with problem number 10, I am solving, it just says solve each equation. Those are my directions. What that means is I'm trying to find the value of m. I'm going to get rid of any parentheses first so that I can then combine like terms and then isolate the variable, all right? Multiply 4 times each term inside the parentheses. Multiply, remember, the whole term, negative m, by 3. Oh, wait, did I do that right? 3 plus 4, yeah, I did. Okay, equals 8m minus 2. There's nothing to do over here. Okay. Now, when I multiply, okay, when I distribute these terms, I'm going to end up with 4 times m is 4m. 4 times negative 6 is negative 24. Negative m times 3 is negative 3m. Negative m times 4 is negative 4m equals 8m minus 2. Do I have any like terms I can combine? Yes, I do. I have a positive 4m. I've got a negative 3m and a negative 4m. I'm just going to save myself a little trouble here. 4m minus 4m gets rid of those m's altogether. And I end up with negative 24 minus 3m equals 8m plus, minus 2. Okay. I'm going to decide to move this m over here and the whole numbers over here to try to keep my m's positive and just save myself that step. Remember, I need to solve for positive m, so I'm making decisions like that. You could subtract the 8m from here and here and then end up having to deal with that, but I'm going to instead move this one here so that these m's stay positive, so that'll move it off of this side, and I'm going to move this whole number. It's a negative 2, so I'm going to add the 2 in order to move it from here, and I've got to do it the same thing on this side, okay, to keep my equation, keep my equation balanced and keep my quantities true. Negative 24 plus 2 is negative 22. This 3m moved over here, and I get 8m, and another 3m is 11m's. This I moved over, so I'm all good to go. To get m by itself, since it's multiplied by 11, I'm going to divide by 11. Negative 22 divided by 11 is negative 2 equals m. We did it. 2 more problems. These last two problems, are translation problems where we're going to translate a phrase, okay, a phrase that's written in words, into an algebraic expression. Okay, so here's number 11. We read 3 subtracted from twice a number. 3 subtracted from twice a number. So I have twice a number. That's the first part of this equation, is 3 subtracted from twice a number is equal to, so use my equal symbol, 31 more than 3 times the number. So I have 3 times the number plus 31 more. Okay, 3 subtracted from twice a number is 31 more than 3 times a number. That's the whole answer, guys. This is it. That's the algebraic expression, okay, that represents those words. Number 12, last one. 1 less than the square root of a number. 1 less than means I'm going to be subtracting 1 from something. From what? 1 less than the square root of a number. What number? We don't know. I'm going to use the variable n just to represent a number. This is 1 less than the square root of a number. All right. Those are all of the answers for numbers 1 through 12. Best of luck to you. You're going to solve 12 similar problems on the first part of exam 1 for your final. Best of luck.